Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing fine. Hope you liked my little preview in the beginning of the video. If you guys want to buy the pet using the Addon Katana or the Addon Katana itself, the link is in the description to our magnificent store, of course. You can also check out our Addon pets, magnificent ones, creatures of the night, like cyberpunk shit. Free mode closing as well. We got new interiors, medium class apartment, low class apartment, a high class apartment coming soon. Addon Katana and other weapons are gonna be under weapons category here. And catch me streaming. I'm gonna be back into streaming this month as well. Alright, thank you guys for listening to this little preview. Let's dive right into the topic of this tutorial. So here I have two swords, katanas. I'm gonna be adding this one into the game. A little sneak peek at the Blender tutorial later on this summer. Yes, I'm finally into Blender, so first things first, why I'm making this tutorial, because current cold weapon tutorials on YouTube are outdated. There are newer tools, actually tools that you can use to speed your work dramatically, and I'm going to show you that in this tutorial. Also something that have never been shown in other weapon tutorials in this video as well. So first things first thing you actually wanna do, so when you found model or you modeled something yourself, so you have your geometry, the next thing you're gonna do is find a weapon on that website. Link is in the description. You're gonna try and find some weapon that you think seems closely to what you're gonna try and add into the game. We're not looking at the handguns, obviously, for now. This is the topic for our next tutorial, and guns are actually much more interesting and flexible in that sense, but we're gonna looking at the melee. So we're not we're not looking for some blunt force, right? We're not looking for some hammer or unarmed or a nightstick. We look for something sharp, and when we're talking about katana, you may think, oh, all right, we have like a switchblade, like a small knife. We also can have a weapon knife, which is this bigger knife, but the closest thing you can get to the katana is actually a machete in the vanilla game. And I actually took the machete for a reason, because it's the trickiest one out here, which may surprise you, because if you go and control V that weapon machete here, you're not gonna find shit. So that's because for machete, for some reason Rockstar does it in several ways. So we see machete here, we search it, and all we find is machete.meta, which means it has its own separate meta files, because it has been added with some other DLC. But even when we type and find that, we don't see the machete file like model, which is YDR drawable, right? We search for the geometry here, and in order to do that, you actually have to add additional T here, so machete, machete, and now once you search that, so now you do find W mean machete LR. W stands for weapon. And now once we go into here, we see our model. So yeah, now you guys know how to find stuff like that within the game files. So now once you found that, let's have a quick look at our textures. We're gonna need that in the future. So we have two versions of the textures for weapons. So this is like a small talk about optimization. So when we talk about closing, there is multiple LOD levels you can and should set up. When you talk about MLOs, there is its separate thing in terms of optimization, like calling for YTDs, polygon count, etc., portals, room IDs. However, here the only thing you can do to optimize your weapon is to use two set of textures. The first one is going to be low res texture, so pay close here to all the textures are 512 to 512, power of 2, of course, while the second plus high, meaning high definition textures, are 1024, which means when they are closer to the weapon, when it's right into your skin or first person, it's using high definition textures, rather than when you're, let's say, 20 meters from its machete. And it makes sense as you think of it, and this is the only thing we're going to be making for LOD purpose in this video. And it's actually the only thing you can do, because weapons do not have LODs like props, exterior objects, or even clothes. So the second thing you can also do is search for your, look for your polygon count value and be careful with it. So it's 2.5k for machete, so nowadays you can scale it down 2-3 times easily with nowadays computers. So 5k, 7k is alright. Nothing wrong about that. Textures most of the times are actually much more important. Do not use 4k, 2k textures for weapons. Also make sure you're using DXT1 as texture compression here. Unless you have alpha channels, then you should use DXT5. Alright, so once we're done with little optimization question here, and again, this is something that distinguishes your work as a professional, so always think about optimization. Now let's export our file. So I created a folder here called Katana Addon and created 3 folders here, which is raw files. We're gonna use it in a second. Then progress, which is just the steps with empty folders here. Always make backups, guys, trust me on that one. And initial is where we're gonna import our shit. So we're gonna need our drawable, our raw geometry here, right into initial. Then we're gonna import our low-res YTD to the same direction. Now we go to our GIMS. This is my katana I'm going to be adding into the game. I'm going to showcase you that in a sec. Obviously this is no GIMS tutorial, but you can do the same thing in Blender. So actually we're going to be making just very few things, 10%, 15% of work in our 3D software, so you can do very same thing in Blender as well. So obviously there's I can leave a link to GIMS tutorial if you guys need in the description. So we will go to our initial and we import our geometry and then ask for our texture. It's the same direction, and once it's done importing, we're going to continue from there. So now once we're inside here, we see our collision here. We're going to talk about the hierarchy a bit later on, but we have our collision here and our machete. So the first things first, you're gonna have to let's disable our transparency. First things first, you're gonna have to preserve the skinning. I'm gonna leave a link to skinning tutorial from Toby, link in the description. But the skinning for weapons is super easy. It's one little simple technique. You're gonna click there and click here. I'm gonna show you in this video. It's very simple and easy, but actually the hard part is in order to convert something into the game, you have to make it follow the same size, obviously, to say the least. So if I unhide my katana, oop, yeah, that's fucked up, right? And this is something you're gonna be encountering in whatever you're doing, whether it's clothing, weapons. Sizing question is something you're also always going to be working on. So in order to fix this, we just go to an R, then Alt right click, then just right click, scale, and let's make it 1% of what it is. Let's see if that's close to our model here. That's actually, oh, that's where actually, that was exactly 100 times bigger, I think. Now what you do is, obviously we have to rotate it perpendicular, 90 degrees. Now we have to rotate it, so I'm doing it rather fast because I've done this before and it's for the purpose of the tutorial, but you guys have to be very careful with it, obviously. So we rotate it until like so, and you try to match it with your machete. So one little life hack, oh, we also have to rotate it 90 here, obviously. Oop. Yeah, it should be like this. One little life hack for you guys is, so you see this little bone here. It's called gun root. This is exactly where your pad hands are gonna be at. So if you unhide everything, our machete is being held at this exact bone spot. So right here you can already tell where we're gonna be holding our katana. So let's say I'm gonna be, my pad hands are gonna be somewhere there, so I put my katana a bit lower. Now I think it's, my katana is a bit small, so So I'm not sure, but I would rather like scale it just a bit bigger, you know, just to be sure here. It's something you can change at any point, but after you're done scaling, make sure to X-form, X-form, reset X-forms, and collapse. And now we're actually done with scaling, and we're done with our positioning. I explained you how to position it well. This is roughly where it is. And now once that's done, let's actually cover skinning and then texturing. And texturing is going to be very important because a very tricky part right there that you guys are gonna love. Okay, so then, oh shit, the music kicks in. So the next thing we do is, in order to preserve our skinning, so basically when we grab a bone, our model moves, what we do is we take our machete, and currently it's at ID 1. By the way, with closing you can only have one TDS texture per component. With weapons, as you see, you can have multiple, so that's alright. So for this here, we select everything and make it ID 5, let's say. So we can select this all separately as just one ID. Then we go to attach, and we attach Katana to our machete. Oops, first things first, let's take this material here. Let's rather do it that way with material picker, so the materials don't get messed up, and we assign that here to our Katana. Now they're sharing the same material. We're gonna fix the textures in a sec. Now we do the attach part, and now we can easily just go select ID 5 to delete our machete. Now if we go to our gun root bone again, we can see our machete moving, which is great. So, but if something is wrong for you guys, you just go to skin modifier. For weapons, it's always the same. You go to edit envelopes. This is where the skinning, all the vertices are controlled. So you guys go here, then you enable vertices. You select every single vertex here, or just hit Control A. Then you go to this little wrench here and you press 1. You guys, if you're not sure about skinning, if you're not in closing, and you're not sure what this even does, there is a skinning tutorial from Toby in the description, but you actually don't have to think about this for cold weapons at all. You just always make it 1. Though for firearm, skinning is gonna be a big part of what we're gonna do. So we've done that. We assign every single vertex the same weight, so it moves. All the geometry moves with one particular gun root bone where our hand is. And now what we do is texturing. But firstly, let's rename our shit to, so it was W weapon, katana, machete. Let's make it Katana Addon. Basically you rename everything like so. We can also do the collision right away. So this is our collision here. It actually matches quite well. We can just maybe increase the height a bit and move it to the right, make it a bit less wide, maybe 06. Yeah, maybe also a little less thick. Yep, that's great. Move it a bit, and now we have our collision. Though, as I see, it's currently wood. Interesting. Let's make it metal, obviously. You can also split it, like, I don't know, make one collision wood like this for your handle, then one collision is metal for your metal part, but just something you can do. We're not gonna necessarily do that right here, but you can do that for sure. Okay, now that we renamed it, established the skinning, and established our collision, the next thing we're gonna do is texturing, a very important part of this tutorial. So we go to our material editor, we select our katana, and we got a bunch of textures here. So what are those W camo 1, 2, 3, what that means? So many IDs, shaders, I don't know what to do. Chill, I'm gonna explain that in a second. So what you have to do is, if we go to our white D of the machete, we can see all of the textures here, and camo 1 actually being default diffuse texture, while Camo 2 being machete with a bit of blood stains on it once you hit someone in like another pad, and Camo 3 being a lot more blood and like slice 3-person in the game, of course. So this is exactly how it's set up within the shaders. You have different diffuse textures set up for non-blood, little blood, more blood. Right? And this is exactly what we're going to set up in this video as well right about now. So I actually downloaded textures for this model. So there's TGA by default. So if I open up my base color, it was painted, Photoshop, doesn't matter. Again, guys, I'm going to show you how to work with this right away. So it's currently 248. First thing we're going to do is resize it to 1024 max. And now we're going to save it as DDS texture. And we call it WCamo1. Alright, it's going to be a DXT1 here. I explained that a bit earlier in optimization part of this video. And now I'm going to show you guys that this is something I downloaded from the internet, but now Camo 2 and Camo 3 I added a bit some blood. I painted it before the tutorial, so that was like the end of the blade. This is like the middle part. So like this is Camo 2, we got a bit more blood, like with machete in the like at the end of your sharp blade. And with Camo 3 you have it in the middle. So it's exactly what I've done what I've done here as well. In Camo 3 we have more in the middle and more here as well. So you just paint it yourself in Photoshop on top of your model. Alright, so we got our vanilla, our Camo 2 with a little blood, Camo 3 with more blood. Let's resize this 1024 as well, by the way. Gotta keep things optimized, remember. 1024, 1024. Oops, what did I do there? Okay, you save it. Now we close that all, and now we go into our 3ds Max, where we finally set up all of those textures here. So we select our Katana, and within our material editor, obviously we have like Camo 1, and guess what? Our shader is already set up here. It's under weapon normal spec palette, and that's exactly what our machete has been using. We're going to be using the same shader. It's weapon shader. Under our BAM texture, let's go and rename that here. I just resized and saved our normal map at Katana Addon. So this is exactly what we're going to be selecting under our bump texture here. Not this one. We should be under Katana Addon. In issue, nope, row. This is what we have just created, and being normal map, and under diffuse extra slot, you won't believe it, under Camo 1 it's Camo 1, Camo 1. So under diffuse texture it's Camo 1 as well. We suddenly have everything working, which is a good sign. For spectral texture I'm just gonna use my Camo 1. Diffuse palette, leave it be, or just remove it. Just make sure you have it palette selector at 0. Now for Camo 2, again, you won't believe it, everything is the same. For Camo 2 it's Camo 2. Same story here. For Camo 3 it's just the same. Again, I'm doing it on camera so you guys don't think that there's something I'm hiding, some secrets that I did behind the camera, and for you it doesn't work because I've hidden something. Not at all. It's all the same for all of that. Now, so that obviously texture shader settings, if you want those explained, just ask in my Discord channel under weapon category or 3ds Max category, or just let me know in comments. This one we just make sure nothing is embedded, because we're not using any of the... This is not going to be exported basically because we're not using any of those textures. Now we're actually done, guys, with 3ds Max. So a little quick recap. We established our collision as metal. We renamed everything according to our add-on, our newer add-on we were about to add into the game. We took care about the skinning, which was easy with weapons, as it always is, and most importantly, we had our texture setup and shader setup within 3ds Max or Blender to work correctly with bloodstains in game. So now you just export all of that, to progress step 1, and once it's done exporting, again take a look at hierarchy one more time. We're gonna continue from there. There's one thing I forgot to tell you guys. You have to select your katana, your cold weapon, and make all the vertex count color yellow and illumination red. This is just something Rockstar is using, so we just copy that, then we export it once again. Now obviously this is no OpenIV tutorial, but you're gonna need your OpenIV. We're not gonna be creating any DLCs for that, for Katana, because weapons don't spawn in Cold Walker either way, so just go to your mods folder really, or any DLC you have set up. Then drag and drop your Katana there. We have our model here. Looks good, looks good. Now the next thing you do is, we don't have any textures, right? So let us create new texture dictionary for it. Just copy the YDR's name, YTD dot, that's it. And now we create one more with plus high definition textures. So in your plus high, just select all of the texture that we have just been working on, 1024. So it's this, and that. We have our spec as our camo, so that's all there is to it. For your YTD, we're gonna be basically opening all of our textures and scaling them down to 512. Again, they're gonna be having the same name, same everything, but just another texture resolution. So you just save it then. And now under your normal YTD, you just drag and drop those here. All the 512 ones. So once again, we have, like, look at this difference. 4 times almost. 4 1K textures, 4 512 textures. This is why it's so important to optimize those. All right. So we actually got all our files working. So if you open up your Katana now, it's gonna grab those textures from there. You see it's working nice and smooth. Not a lot of polygons, by the way, just 3000. So the next thing we do is we establish meta files for our Katana. So, and this is where we're gonna use newly created tool by Robster. Props to him. Weapons toolkit it's called. So you basically just download the zip, then you will be able to just unzip it, and we will have weapon toolkit available here. So this is the program we're gonna need to automatically generate all of the meta files we need, literally by pressing like 5 buttons. So you open that up, and it works with templates. So first things first, files found. It needs to have some files to work with, and in our case obviously it's our Katana. So let's have all our files drag and drop somewhere, just any spot really. You can just copy the place, then under browse you just go to the very same spot and select folder, and now it sees all of your files here, your drawable and your textures. So what are those settings really? So this is your template, so which weapon, vanilla weapon inside the game is going to be using to copy its settings onto your newly add-on weapon. So funny thing, there's no machete here. This is exactly why I took machete, because this is literally the hardest you can do and pick. And if you guys gonna be doing something else like knife, hammer, sledgehammer, you're gonna be using a hammer. If you're gonna be using something else, you're gonna be using like golf club, something lighter, right? You can use it. You can be using knife. So again, there's no machete here, but in my Discord channel, I'm gonna leave a template for machete. So in my store as well, this katana is gonna be like a machete and not like knives. But in our tutorial, let's say we're using a knife. If you're gonna be using katana, again, go to my Discord channel to tools and links and just copy the folder there. Now you go to the next. All right, we have to, I forgot, we have to rename all the shit. Obviously, so you copy your YDR name. So your weapon name is your YDR name, your weapon model is your YDR name. Now it's found it. A weapon ID is under what name will it spawn in game. So honestly, I'll just keep it the same, but because there may be many add-on weapons on your server, so I could just keep it to, you know, weapon katana, but you may already have this on your server, so I'll just make it WME Katana Addon. I'll just keep it all the same for the simplicity. So this is under which name you're gonna spawn it in games. Then you go next. So this is your configuration settings. So all your item is again more for weapons, like firearm. So nothing you can select here that will actually make us pleased for our melee. So those are the damage type, etc, etc. Damage type is obviously should be melee. So which damage should you use? So if you go to Artifact Explorer and go to weapons.meta, this is where all of your settings of your weapons are gonna be at. So let's search for some knife. Let's say just for the comparison, slot knife. And there we have our weapon knife. So what damage does it have? Let's search for any damage value. Its damage is 0, damage time, hit limits damage modifier 05. So this is like where you search for your damage values. So for example, if you go to machete, you're not gonna find machete here, because you have to find machete at its own file, as I shown in the beginning of the video. Here we have our machete.meta. You can search for all the damage parameters right here. Headshot damage is at 1000, so you can basically just copy all of those. But let's just leave it, I don't know, like 5, I don't know. The rest you can just copy. Then go to your components. This is mostly for like silencer, second mag. It's mostly for firearms, so we skip it here. We don't care about that. Now we just export it. Export to where? All our newly created files. Let's say we create a folder called export. Browse and export right here. And now it actually didn't do shit because I hit browse again. Now we just export. Now we actually have our folder and it's FiveM ready. So what I'm telling is, now let's dive into streaming part of the video, and all you have to actually have to do is just drag and drop that into your resources folder, then just copy the name of it. Inside here it has under in stream folder all of your YTD, YDR. Under meta, all of the meta files here. We have no components, so components folder can just be deleted. All of our weapon meta files here. Previously you had to literally type it manually inside every single file without that tool, but that tool allows it to do easily and fast. So weapons.meta is something you're gonna change if you wanna make it not katana but not knife but katana. So copy all of those. Copy all of here to here. From item, closing item to starting item, right? So this is the name under which is going to be spawned in game. So once we establish all those files, you just copy the name of the folder here. We keep everything the same name, quite easy. Now you just go to ensure, and you just basically do that. Now you just close your server.cfg, and actually, as I said, it's as simple as that. We can already go into our server and let's check out the files if they're actually working without touching anything. Now here we are inside my little playground, and what we have to do is now I'm going to be using Lambda menu. Link is in the description. We go to F1, weapons, weapon options, spawn weapon by name being if you remember, it's WME Katana Addon. So we go to WME Katana Addon. Now my PC crashed for some unrelated to Katana reason, so let's try this once again. Let's find this dude. Wow. Wow. We might not see the blood. Oh, I already see it. You might not see the blood right away, because you might land a few additional hits, but we can already see the blood on our edge there. It doesn't look that bad, honestly. I didn't paint it that bad, but if you try and hit more and more, what you'll see happening is basically more blood appearing on your katana. Yeah, you see it, this one, we didn't have it. So this is basically how you do it, how you paint it. And I'm super glad that I made this tutorial. Trust me, guys, weapon tutorial, firearm is gonna be even more interesting. There's so much settings to tackle there. I'm gonna try and make it before my big Blender MLO tutorial. We're gonna dive into Blender, and I hope you guys loved the video. You can buy our pets or this katana under weapons category on my Dearest Mods store, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. I stream every week. And thank you guys for being me in this tutorial. Please share your results within my Discord channel under previews. If you have further questions answered, ask them in my weapon category, and see you soon. Have a great one, guys.